Did you know scientific research has determined that 40% of our happiness is within our own ability to control? Which means we can increase or decrease our happiness by what we do and how we think through intentional activity. And we want to share something today that has worked for us and has been super powerful in helping us remain positive in our outlook in life.
Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines gratitude as a state of being grateful.
Psychology Today explains that gratitude is a spontaneous feeling, but increasingly research demonstrates its value as a practice. That is, making conscious efforts to count one's blessings. Studies show that people can deliberately cultivate gratitude, and there are important social and personal benefits in doing so. It's possible to feel grateful for loved ones, colleagues, animals, nature, and life in general. The emotion generates a climate of positivity that both reaches inward and extends outward.
Renowned gratitude scientist Dr. Robert Emmons of UC-Davis describes gratitude as an affirmation of goodness. We affirm that there are good things in life. Life is good. It doesn't mean that life is perfect, but that we can identify some amount of goodness in our lives.
So what are some of the benefits of practicing gratitude?
A regular gratitude practice can increase your level of happiness up to 25%, according to Dr. Robert Emmons.
Gratitude can also foster both physical and psychological health.
Yeah, that's one that worked really well for me, Casey. You know, in the morning, one of the first things I do when I get up is just take a few minutes to journal 5 things that I'm grateful for, and it really resets or sets my tone for the day. When we get up to do our physical training, whether it be Seal Fit or Kokoro Yoga, I'm in a real positive state of mind, and it really helps me to start that workout, even if I'm not quite sure that, today is the day that I want to take on a Seal Fit workout. I've already set my mind up to win for that workout.
Yeah, I get the same benefit. It sets my mind up to be more positive and more willing to start projects or get into physical activities. It's almost like it gives me sort of an energy boost because I'm already in a more positive mindset.
Another benefit of gratitude practice is just lessening stress. It helps people bounce back from stressful events in their lives.
It also helps people sleep better.
And studies show that it boosts your immune system.
It can also improve academic and professional performance.
One of the really neat things, too, is it actually helps you celebrate the present, as in the present moment.
It can also help block toxic emotions like envy, resentment, regret, depression. And that's something I noticed when starting a gratitude practice when I was in a negative mindset was the more I did it, the more I had positive, uplifting emotions, which more or less cancel out those negative, toxic emotions that we're talking about here. So they don't really exist on the same plane. So when you're focusing yourself on gratitude and positivity, it's really difficult, or some would say impossible, to have those negative emotions at the same time. So it's super powerful there.
Grateful people are also more stress resilient. I can attest from my own experience that when I'm in a stressed situation or a stressed state, if I just take a moment to remember all the good things going on in my life and why I'm actually here in this moment doing this thing and who I'm doing it for, it helps me reframe the stress into a positive.
Gratitude can also strengthen social ties and self-worth. And these are actually just 10 of the benefits of practicing gratitude that we've listed here. There's a plethora of other benefits and powerful things that you can gain from a gratitude practice.
One of the interesting things I came across during my Stoic philosophy studies is that gratitude is a major driver of the Stoic philosophy. Seneca, in his writings, indicated that gratitude is fundamental motivational driver for societal relationships and interpersonal relationships. And I think when I came across that information early on, even before I came to my gratitude practice, I didn't really understand it. I was dismissive of it. It didn't hit home for me. But when I actually leaned into the gratitude practice many months later, it made sense. I finally started understanding what he was getting at. And I think what he was driving at is that just a simple fundamental gratitude practice of taking stock of the positive in your life really sets you up in a positive mindset and sets you up for success moving throughout your day within your interpersonal relationships, whether it be at home, at work, or out with friends. Just being grateful for these opportunities really drives home the positive aspect of what it is to be human.
So before we go into a little more depth of how this practice has really helped and changed our lives, we wanted to talk about how can you practice gratitude? There are a lot of ways to practice gratitude. One thing that comes to mind is writing down 3 good things. So basically, identify 3 things that have gone well for you in the day, in the week, and identify the cause. So why did that happen? Who helped you with that? What drove that good thing to happen?
Engaging in an exercise called mental subtraction, what that is it's imagining what your life would be like without some positive event. If that positive event had not occurred, or perhaps even somebody in your life, if that person wasn't in your life, had never come into your life and provided that positive relationship, what would your life be like? Clearly, there's a lot to be grateful there.
Absolutely. One that I really like or connect with is verbalizing appreciation for someone's friendship, love, support. I mean, really the basic idea of saying thank you to someone and just letting them know that they're appreciated not only gives you a little bit of positivity, but you're sharing that with someone else too.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it was how I was raised, but please and thank you are big things. And I think I've really started paying attention to when I say thank you to somebody, either on the phone or in person, you can hear oftentimes the change in their voice or how their body language changes. Perhaps a smile comes to their face. And if you say thank you and you actually mean it and you say it with gratitude, people pick up on that. There's an energy in there. Another way to practice gratitude is just stopping and smelling the roses, appreciating the beauty in nature. And I think for us, that's a really major thing. We spend a lot of time outdoors, hiking, climbing, mountaineering, canyoneering, and just taking the time to appreciate not only the surroundings, but the wildlife that we interact with, from the deer to the bear to the bumblebee, right? It's all part of the ecosystem. It's all part of the natural world. And when you can connect to that energy, it really can reshape your thinking, your thought process. It can help you de-stress, and just showing a little bit of gratitude for that ability or that opportunity to be in nature is really powerful for us.
Absolutely. It's such a positive energy. And speaking of energy, one way to have more gratitude in your life is avoiding negative energy. So avoiding media that's negative or even movies with destructive content. So if you're not exposing yourself repeatedly to these negative energies, it's a lot easier to focus on the positive and really see what all you are grateful for in your life.
From my own personal story, I can certainly attest to avoiding negative media. During the last election cycle, I was fully engaged in all the negative media from both sides of the aisle, nonstop Twitter and Facebook and the network news. And I found myself getting agitated, even angry at times. And when I stopped engaging in that media, when I removed myself from that environment, and I took some deep breaths and just thought about what I was grateful for, it really changed almost immediately my physiology and my mindset.
Another way to practice gratitude is gratitude meditation, and really just feeling into those grateful emotions and letting that sink in and wash over you as you connect with your breath and your core.
Yeah, absolutely. Meditation has become one of our foundational practices, and I can certainly attest to the power of just taking time to quiet your mind and focus on gratitude. What are you grateful for? What's going on in your life that's positive? Volunteering for organizations that help others is another pretty powerful way to practice gratitude.
Yet another way to practice is embracing challenges and turning them into opportunities to grow.
Yeah, and then savoring positive experiences. While you're in the midst of a positive experience, just take a moment and reflect briefly on what's happening and why you're grateful to be there.
And one of our favorite ways, and suggested by a lot of people to be one of the best ways to practice gratitude, is keeping a daily journal. So, keeping track of big and little joys through daily life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think reflecting back on my journey here, when I first heard of gratitude, expressing gratitude, gratitude journaling, I was pretty skeptical, right? Um, even though we were studying Unbeatable Mind, and Mark Devine, who is a retired Navy SEAL commander, he had even suggested that said that's one of his daily practices. And I just was skeptical. I didn't buy into it. I was resistant for whatever reason. It just wasn't something I was interested in doing. And at some point along the way, I said, you know what? I'm just going to start thinking about what I'm grateful for. And, that worked a little bit for me. And then I said, you know what? I'm still not feeling it the way they're describing it. So I'm going to start typing it out every day. Just 5 things that I'm grateful for. And even that practice or that act of typing it out still didn't get me a lot of traction. And so the next step was handwriting it every morning, just taking a few minutes to actually write out, slowing down to visualize and think about what I'm writing, the actual act of writing, and in gratitude. And wow, that's when it hit me that I started noticing changes in my thinking, in the way I started interacting with the people around me, in the way I showed up in the world. And I'm not saying it's a quick fix, it's going to cure everything, but it really sets me up well to win my day. The first premise of Unbeatable Mind is to win in your mind before stepping foot on your battlefield for the day. And I'll tell you what I found when I really leaned into this practice, when I started handwriting my journal, was there was a psychological effect that just changed the way I thought for the rest of the day. Even though my day may have not gone perfectly well or the way I wanted it to, when I set myself up in the morning with that practice, I was much more resilient throughout the day. I also find that when I skip the gratitude practice, perhaps one day doesn't make a big difference, but when I skip it for 2 or 3 days or 4 days for whatever reason, I can feel myself backsliding, and I'm much more susceptible to the stresses in life and to becoming much more agitated more quickly, more easily. And what that tells me is this is a practice that not only actually really works, but that I can't really skip it. I'm doing myself harm if I don't actually engage in the practice every day.
Yeah, when I first started gratitude journaling, it was actually quite a struggle. I was in a rather negative mind space or mindset, and it was really difficult for me to find things to be grateful for. But what I found was I was focusing so much on the negative and all the things that weren't going right that I was basically causing more negativity in my life, making my own life harder. But what I found was when I really leaned into the gratitude practice and really analyzing my life and looking for those positive aspects and focusing on positive as opposed to the negative. It was, like you said, it wasn't an immediate right away cure, if you will, but slowly I could feel myself starting to see things more positively, more easily. And even in the journaling, I noticed I started finding things to be grateful for a lot faster and a lot easier. And I was able to actually connect with those feelings of gratitude and positivity. So it was almost like rewriting my subconscious. Like you said, it wasn't right away, but you can start to feel your world shift to a more positive outlook. It's quite amazing, actually.
Yeah. And again, I want to iterate for you out there that are skeptical about this. I was extremely skeptical. I was resistant. I was hesitant. And I found that I needed to get uncomfortable before I felt the benefits here. I had to step outside my comfort zone, and I had to do something that was not intuitive for me, that I didn't necessarily buy into, but I knew that I wasn't necessarily happy with how I was showing up and how I was moving through my day. And I was being stressed out by just, the everyday stuff, the news, the bills, travel. And there just came a point when I said, you know what have I got to lose? There's nothing that's I'm going to lose here if I just start doing this practice and just lean into it a little bit. And it was a process too. Like I said, it didn't happen overnight, but now I'm not going to give it up, and I'm not going to go back, because I've just found the benefits to be so amazingly powerful.
I agree. And like you said, it's not an immediate fix. It's definitely something that you have to commit to. And again, the more you do it, the more benefit you see. So, a few things that you can do to help really solidify those feelings of gratitude during your practice is really evoking that sense of gratitude. So, while you're writing, get specific, be as detailed as you can.
Yeah, one of the things that I started doing was embodying the gratitude, using all my senses. So when I'm out in the mountains adventuring, I listen. And if I want to recall that and be grateful for that opportunity, I'm going to think about hearing the birds. I'm going to think about hearing the breeze blowing through the trees, the smell of the flowers. Um,
I like the warmth of the sun that I can
yeah.
feel on my face.
So connecting with something specific, the more detailed you can get while you're journaling, what you're grateful for, the easier it is to connect with that emotion.
And that being said, it really does matter less what you write and more what you experience and feel while you're writing it.
So think about quality over quantity. If you write down a list of 20 things you're grateful for every morning, but you're not embodying that feeling, if you're not really feeling the gratitude there, perhaps backing off and just doing 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for. And those could be things, they could be events, they could be people in your lives. It doesn't have to be just an item or something you purchased.
Absolutely. And one important thing I've found with a gratitude practice is not to forget about being grateful for yourself and finding things about yourself to be grateful for, even if it's, I'm thankful for my legs and that they carry me up the mountain and to these beautiful views, or I'm grateful for the opportunity to practice and be more aware.
You know, as crazy as this sounds, one of the things that I found myself being grateful for when I'm out mountaineering or hiking Colorado 14ers is, you know, when you first start off and perhaps you're out of shape, you haven't hiked a 14er in a while and your legs are burning and tired really early on in the hike. Well, after 2 or 3 trips, or if you're working out pretty hard in between, all of a sudden that mountain becomes just a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier to navigate and move up that mountain. And I find myself just being grateful for the fact that I suffered through the previous 2 or 3 mountains, or I did those extra leg workouts during the week in between. So as I mentioned earlier, the first premise of Unbeatable Mind is to win in your mind before stepping foot on the battlefield of your day. And what better way to set up a winning mindset for your day than taking a few moments to focus on the positive in your life through a practice of gratitude? To help solidify this, we're going to be sharing a whole bunch of information this week on our Twitter account, supporting documentation that we came across when we were doing our research for this podcast. We're going to share some videos and some articles and some research by subject matter experts and researchers that really is meant to show that what we're talking about isn't just some hocus pocus snake oil stuff. There's legitimate science behind all this. And we're inviting you to come along and follow us on Twitter and to take a few moments just to take a look at the research and the supporting documentation.
Thank you for joining us. We do appreciate your time, and we hope that you got as much out of this as we did in presenting it for you. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and leave some comments. We'd love to hear from you. Live fiercely.
Live fiercely.